When I think about today's world, it's a lot of shit going on. I'm not going to even hold y'all. It is a lot of things happening like today, and it's so hard to like just sit down and just like focus. We have a lot of things happening within the black community with women and men. A lot of black boys are going missing with the Cyrus case, and then that man getting off, and then there's all of that. With that, we have a lot of black boys here in Georgia that have went missing. A lot of women have been killed. Black women have been killed in Georgia as well that I'm noticing. And it's just like there's a lot of things happening within the black community that brings me to this video today. The most important thing is to, why am I rubbing my hair through my one little dread in the back? Like, it's not in a ponytail. One of the biggest things that come up for me today is healing and how healing is so important. So today I want to introduce you to something before we go any deeper. It's called the 4M method. It is 4 steps: notice it, name it, nurture it, navigate it. If you have not watched my videos before, it's basically a way to come home to yourself. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to move through each one together, and we are starting with where everything starts, and that is with noticing. Noticing is not passive. It's actually one of the most important steps in healing, because the world has trained us to keep moving, to push through, to function, to survive, while there's like thousands of things being thrown at us. And noticing asks you to stop, to feel, to pay attention to your body, because you cannot heal what you cannot feel, and you cannot heal what you do not notice. So that is what we're going to start with today. We are starting with notice. And if y'all see me looking at my screen, I have notes on my screen. I am super ADHD. I will start talking about 50 other things in this video if I did not write these notes. So we're going to start with the most important: systematic and economic oppression. When I think about what has been built against the black community, specifically, the first thing that comes to mind is misplaced hatred. A hatred so deep, so organized, so persistent that it does not make sense unless you sit with it long enough to understand what it's really about. Because at no point in time we have been the oppressors. We have not been the cause of anything that would justify the level of targeting, and yet here we are. And one of the most biggest things I've been seeing is people trying to stop the conversation or close the conversation with slavery was 400 years ago. Because yes, slavery was 400 years ago. If I'm not mistaken, slavery ended in 1865. But what comes after is the part they don't want us to pay attention to. 1865, slavery ended, if I'm not mistaken. That is the same year black codes began. From 1865 to 1877, y'all, let me put this together. Reconstruction. Black people, we built, we organized, we governed, we thrived. Then the federal troops was pulled out, and it all got dismantled overnight. From 1877 to 1965, we had Jim Crow. Is nearly 100 years of legalized segregation, terror, and economic exclusion, separate but equal, that was never equal. 1917 to 1923, the Red Summer, Tulsa, Oklahoma, I believe that was 1921, I think. Black Wall Street, 35 blocks burnt to the ground, 10,000 people left homeless, or close to 10,000 people left homeless, a lot of people killed. And then we have Rosewood, which I believe was in Florida, 1923, that was attacked and gone. 1830s to 1960s, redlining. Black families were locked out of home ownership and generational wealth. 1964 to 1965, Civil Rights Act, another door cracked open. 1971, the war on drugs, the incarceration rate for Black Americans skyrocketed. Whole generations removed from their families. And today, here we are with all the things that are being dismantled and reversed, books banned, Black history erased from curriculums, and that is the unbroken chain. 1865 to right now, every single time Black people rose, a door got closed, a law got passed, a neighborhood got burnt down to the ground, generations got locked up, and then here we are fragmented. It is important to sit with ourselves at some point and realize that when hanging a body from a tree became too visible to ignore, they started to lynch us other ways. Lynching did not just stop at a tree. People got smarter about it. They spent years, decades, generations dismantling the Black mind instead, because they realized something. You do not have to kill the body if you kill the belief. You do not have to hang a person from a tree if you can hang them from the inside of their minds. They lynched us academically, gutting our schools, burning our curriculums, teaching our children that they came from nothing, so they would expect nothing. They lynched us systematically, building laws and policies designed to look like justice while functioning like chains. They lynched us emotionally, pathologizing our pain, criminalizing our grief, calling our survival responses disorders, and our rage a threat. They lynched us mentally, feeding us a distorted image of ourselves through every system, every screen, every institution, until we started to believe it ourselves. They lynched us spiritually, stripping us of our roots, our rituals, our connections to something larger, and what this world was telling us we were. The ropes became invisible, but the damage became generational. They did not just attack the community, they attacked the mirror. And when you spend long enough looking into a broken mirror, you start to believe the broken reflection is the truth. It is not the truth. It never was. From the external into the internal, and that is the part that makes this so dangerous. Because when you spend generations being attacked from the outside, eventually that outside gets in. The lies they told us about us, we start to tell ourselves. The limitations that they built around us, we start to build inside of ourselves. The hatred that was never ours to carry, picked it up and turned it inwards. We were taught that our worth lives in something outside of the body, in what we own and what we achieve, how we are perceived, how much we produce. We were never taught to come home inside, to look within, to understand that everything that we have been searching for out there was already living inside of here. That is the deepest wound of systematic oppression. It does not just take things from you. It makes you forget who you are before it started taking. And that is exactly where we are going next. The world has corrupted the viewer self. The self is important. Your self-perception of you, how do I say this? Your perception of self is the most important, okay? Growing up in survival mode is chaotic. And what makes it even more disorienting is that when you are inside of it, you do not know that is what you are doing. You just think like this is what life is. Get through it today, worry about tomorrow when it comes, just moving, just keep surviving. Survival mode does not give you room to put something down and say, I did that, I accomplished something, I am proud of myself. It does not give you room to feel proud because in survival mode, you build what you feel like you're supposed to do. And so you keep going without ever recalibrating, coming home to yourself. And a lot of people look right over their own accomplishments because survival trained them to, especially with myself. When it came down to me graduating college, I was like, that's nothing. You know, people graduate college. That is some small shit. It is not. Most people don't. Most people don't even go to college. They don't even make it past high school. And I did that, but I downplayed it and I kept on with the survival script. And on top of that, the world has handed everyone a measuring stick that has nothing to do with who you actually are. The importance of materialistic value has went up. When your internal sense of self has been broken or buried, you start reaching for things outside of yourself to give you that feeling of importance. I have this, so now I matter. But you should matter without it. You should matter when you have nothing. You should know that you are that person before any object ever entered the room. Because at our core, at your core, at my core, we are love. That is 100% truthful. You were not born with hate. You were not born with low vibrational energies. When babies come into this world, babies are pure joy, happiness, uncomplicated, beautiful energy. What changes that is programming. What changes that is systems, family dynamics. It is what gets presented while they were still learning what the world is. So we learn to adapt, and we learn to survive inside of what is shown to us instead of living from the happiness that we was born into. There is a difference that matters more than most people have ever been told. The youth is the difference. The youth is the biggest thing right now. When I look at the children today, like right now, two things come to mind. My heart breaks for this generation, but also have hope for this generation. Yes, this generation is different. Yes, they do not follow the rules the way previous generations did. And honestly, I do think these kids are fucking crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think some of them are bad as shit. Sometimes out of their minds. But I love every bit of it because this generation is very fearless. Genuinely fearless. Like, they don't give a fuck about anything. They don't strengthen themselves. They don't comply. They do not accept what they are handed just because it was handed to them. And the world looks at them and call them problems, call them disrespectful, call them lost causes. But when I see this generation was not built for the world that currently exists. They were built for a world that is supposed to come. Their fearlessness, their whimsicaliness, if that's a word, their freeness, their refusal to just fall in line, that is them being exactly who they need to be for what is coming next. I feel like it becomes complicated because when you take a hungry, powerful, fearless being or thing and you put it into a cage, it does not just sit there like peacefully and just wait. It goes crazy. It destroys things. It turns on itself and everything around it. And I feel like that is what we are seeing or we are watching happen to the generation right now. A lot of the times, I don't feel like a lot of these kids are bad. Some are. Some of them are fucking terrible. I do feel like some are powerful beings living inside a world that was not built to hold them yet. There is no structure for their fearlessness. There's no container for their creativity. So that energy, that God-given generational revolutionary energy has nowhere to go. And when energy have nowhere to go, it does not disappear. It can come out sideways. It could come out in destruction. It could come out in choices that break our hearts because we can see what they could be if the world around them was different. The problem is not the children. The problem is the system that these children are born into. The system that is not technically made to hold their type of energy. And there is nobody building them anything better to stand on. What's currently being passed down to them without people, I feel like a lot of people don't mean to pass down it, but generational trauma, hatred, the belief that your self-worth lives in something outside of you, the disconnection from self that was never healed in ourselves. We pass it down because unexamined wounds do not disappear. They travel through everything we normalize, everything we model, everything we say and do not say. The world we build in ourselves today is the container we create for them tomorrow. That's why I'm like, my biggest quote is evolve or repeat. Evolve myself, or I will watch my children, my nieces and nephews repeat the same things that I had to go through. And I don't want to bring a generation into this world and they have to heal from having me as a parent, but not only heal from having me as a parent, heal from my parents and their parents and so many other generations. So yeah, before we end this video, I want to stop here because I'm not giving notice the time it deserves. And noticing is everything. It's not just the first step. It's the step that makes all the other steps possible. You cannot name what you have not noticed. You cannot nurture what you have not named. And you cannot navigate what you have not yet been willing to see. So if you skip noticing, you skip everything. I feel like a lot of people misunderstand. Noticing is not the same thing as thinking about something. Your mind has probably been thinking about everything we just talked about. The years, the things happening within the Black community, things done to the Black community, our own internal sense of self. But thinking keeps it in your head. Noticing brings it into your body, and your body is where the truth actually lives. For me, this video gave me the most anxiety. I have a hard time watching traumatic Black videos, like Black people being harmed now. After I heard the Trayvon Martin audio, like hearing him scream, I don't know if it was an audio or video, but hearing him scream for help, that fucked me up. And ever since then, when I see another story, another Black person being harmed, like George Floyd, all of that, a lot of feelings in my body goes to feeling before my mind can even process what I am feeling. That is noticing. Knowing what it does to you, knowing where it lives in your body. For me, it does not make me want to run away from the conversation. It makes me want to come home to it more, but also understanding what's happening in my body. Do I have tightness in my chest? Is my shoulders feeling heavy, or do my body or energy just feel heavy in general? Do I have like that weird pit in my stomach? Me noticing these things allow me to know like this is my body, holding what my mind has been trying to process alone. Noticing is asking, what have I been calling normal that was never actually normal? That was never actually survival. What have I been reaching for on the outside because I was never taught to look what's on the inside. Noticing is feeling the weight of what was passed down to me, to you, without shaming what we feel or shaming ourselves for carrying it. It is seeing the cage without immediately trying to escape it. Because if you try to run before you understand where you are running from, you will build the same cage somewhere else and call it freedom. For this community specifically, the Black community, noticing looks like being willing to acknowledge that the damage done to the Black community is real. It is terrible. It is a lot to take in without letting the damage becomes your identity. The systematic oppression, the economic exclusion, the attacks on our kids, I have no kids, but attacks on y'all kids, all of that lives somewhere in the body right now. You inherit it even if you never lived through the specific moment. Both things can be true at the same time. The wound is real, so is the power underneath it. You cannot come home to yourself if you keep pretending the door was never there. So your one assignment for this week, between now and next week, is to sit with yourself, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Noticing what you have been carrying, noticing how the history we talked about, or the history that you have, or things that you have like happen in your family, lives in your body. Notice the moments where you feel the weight of being a Black person in today's world and what that does to your nervous system. Notice the moments where you reach for something external because the internal feels like it's too much. Notice what you have inherited that was never yours to carry in the first fucking place. Notice when you shrink in a room. Notice when you question whether you deserve something. Notice the moments where the program is showing up in your real daily life. Those are not random impulses. Those are signals, and signals are the language of noticing. I want you to write it down if you can. Say it out loud if you can. This is just you, being honest about what is actually going on inside of you, what's actually going on inside of your world. You do not have to fix it right now. You don't have to fix it at this moment. Noticing is the whole assignment, because what you are finally wanting to see, you can begin to change. Again, when you start to see the damage being caused, you can start gaining the clarity, the answers to change that narrative. I want to leave you with something I received that you need to sit with before this week is done. There is an energy in this world. You can feel it in the earth itself that keeps producing even after it's been neglected, mistreated, even after it has been stripped, even after people has taken from it over and over and over without giving anything back. It just keeps growing, it keeps blooming, because that is where it was created to do. That is what this world is created to do. That energy lives inside of you, it lives inside of me, it lives inside of this community, it lives in those children who are watching us figure this shit out so they can figure out something greater. You were created for something, and the world has been working very hard to make you forget that. Years of organized dismantling of the black community was not done just because. You were put on this world for something powerful, and the world has been working very hard to make you forget that. So if you want to go deeper into like practices, noticing practices, check out my guide for this week. In week 1 asks you just to notice, just to see things clearly, maybe for the first time. Come back next week. We're going to name it together. So, ciao.